Ian, remember last episode when I said, or I asked you if it can get any worse?
It got worse.
Completely. Today we're going to be covering the Panthers' loss plus Bryce Young getting benched with the start of Andy Dalton. And then we're also going to go into a little bit of the upcoming game against Las Vegas. And then we're going to go into a little bit of Hornets news. Ian, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Touchdown, Carolina! You're listening to the Buzz Pound.
Smith scores, and the Carolina Panthers win in overtime.
A Queen City sports podcast covering your Charlotte Hornets and Carolina Panthers.
Halliburton, nowhere to go! LaMelo's done it! LaMelo's done it! Hornets win! Here comes LaMelo. Score! And we're tied!
Here are your hosts, Ian Blair and Cam Gardner.
Buzz Pound, thank you all for returning for episode 3. I'm here, Ian. He's here. We're getting ready to go into yet again another poor performance of a game from the Panthers in week 2 against the LA Chargers. Talk about a major loss, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, it's like running out of words to say, running out of excuses for Bryce Young. Obviously, his time in Carolina is in jeopardy, but just didn't play well on Sunday. It boils down to the team just man, it's so frustrating. I can't, I'm trying to find the words to describe it, but I think the past 2 weeks is the worst offense I've seen in Carolina since being a Panthers fan. I've seen some rough offenses, some rough play calling too, but these past 2 weeks from an offensive standpoint has just been the worst I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more, man. We're talking about Bryce Young with only 18 completed passes out of 26 attempts, 84 yards, one interception. Final score, obviously, 26-3. Then you got Justin Herbert on the Chargers playing with 14 completed passes out of 20 attempts, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, one interception. Not a spectacular performance, but it completely overshadowed what our quarterback did, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously, we'll go into Andy Dalton or Bryce Young getting benched for Andy Dalton later in this episode, but I think it's going to be interesting kind of to see these next couple of weeks with Andy Dalton under center to see if it's some of the play calling, because I have some quick stats for you. I mean, obviously, one that really stuck out to me after looking at the stat sheet is once again we were 1 for 12 on first down or third down, excuse me. Um, and I mean, it's just we had 7 first downs compared to the Chargers 21. Um, and we didn't even have a drive that finished in the red zone. We had 9 penalties and only the Chargers only had 3. Man, it's going to be interesting to see how the play calling is because Bryce, there wasn't many. I don't know if he probably had. I could probably count on one hand how many passes for more than 10 yards that were called for him this past week. I mean, nothing down the field, all check downs. He was struggling to complete simple passes. And what really frustrates me the most, looking back on all of this, is the past 2 weeks with Bryce, that's not the kid we saw at Alabama. It's not the kid we saw at Alabama. I mean, I don't know if it's going back to what I said last week. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. That's what I've heard a lot from, on Twitter and, some of the stuff I've seen. They agree that they think he lacks confidence. And I kind of see that, but it's like, at the end of the day, we got to do what's best for the team and we got to win some ball games. And that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, and then that's what I was honestly alluding to last week when I mentioned, the possibility of Dalton starting. Did I think it was going to be this soon? Not at all. But I knew it was a matter of time before they did it because I just had a feeling moving forward. I didn't see much changing. I just had that feeling in my gut. It's same thing, different Sunday. I mean, that's just the story of the Carolina Panthers fandom. I'm sure you could agree to that.
Yeah.
It starts at the top, obviously. Listening to a lot of analysts on TV such as Stephen A, Pat McAfee, Shannon Sharp, all of those guys, they're saying the same thing. It all goes down to the front office, those authorities that be,
Yep.
the people up top. David Tepper is the one name I keep hearing come up. And honestly, it is the truth. Ever since he's obtained the team, we have not had a winning season. We've had too many changes, too many coaches. I mean, the whole system just rapidly changes. And at this point, you would think they would see it's not going anywhere under their authority. But
Yeah.
as of now, it's looking like we're going to be stuck with them. I'm not even sure what's far future at this point. I mean, we've already tried the multiple quarterback situation from Teddy Bridgewater to Sam Darnold to Baker Mayfield. And now we're at Bryce Young, which we literally traded everything for. Our entire important piece to our franchise, pretty much, which included DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. You would think they would want to have a team set for a quarterback, but they did the complete opposite at that point. So we'll just have to see how this Andy Dalton run goes. Last year, the last time Andy Dalton started was week 3, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was week 3 against the Seattle Seahawks. Dalton's stats were 34 completed passes out of 58 attempts, 361 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And the final score ended up being 27-37. We didn't win, but it was way better of a performance than what we've seen from Bryce so far, if we're being honest. I mean, it's not great, and it's probably not the answer for the future. But if we're looking to at least win some games this season, that might be the way to go if he can still play like that. We have pieces now, and it just seems that, with Young, it's not working for him right now. And honestly, with the start of Dalton, that's really what I was hoping for when Young first came, just so he can sit and learn a little bit from the bench while observing. I really didn't want them throwing him out in the fire right away, but we should have known they were going to do that. They traded everything. When you trade literally everything for a particular pick like that, yet the number 1 pick, they're going to play him, which they have. But now, they're seeing it's not the best idea moving forward. Canales didn't say whether it's long-term or short-term. We'll just have to see. And that was 24 hours and maybe not even after he kept saying in the post-game interview that Bryce is our quarterback. Bryce is our quarterback. But once he watched film and saw how everything looked, obviously it gave him the idea it would be the best thing to do. So we'll just have to see, man. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think what you just said about Canales saying Bryce is our quarterback, Bryce is a quarterback, I tell people all the time, a lot, you can't listen to much coaches say in interviews because a lot of it's coach speak. It's all, we got to get better. We got to play better, go back to watch the film. It's all the same thing every week, in these interviews. And he wasn't obviously going to throw Bryce under the table or under the bus, right after the game. I didn't, nobody would ever do that. But one thing I really wanted to harp on a little bit is, my excuse for, I don't know how you feel about this, Cam, but my excuse a lot for Bryce last year was the offensive line didn't protect him. He was under so much pressure, didn't have any time to throw the ball, all that. And that was, very true. He did get sacked a lot. And even last week against the Saints, he got sacked a lot. But I saw something on, I think it was Instagram, that our offensive line is up to like number 5 in the PFF grade for this year, which says a lot about the guys we brought in. I don't know if I didn't go back and watch all the Chargers film. I don't really know if the Chargers brought a whole lot of pressure. I don't think they did because Bryce was under a whole lot of pressure the entire game. I don't know if it was just a lack of the Chargers bringing it or good pass protection. It's probably a mixture of both, if I had to guess. But it's nice to see that, Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt, and obviously Taylor Moton's been on the offensive line for a long time, and Ike Ekwonu, we haven't heard anything. He hasn't stood out in a negative way yet this year. Hopefully he can turn around. But, Bryce wasn't under a whole lot of pressure against the Chargers last week, and he just looked horrible. He just didn't look good.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking getting sacked, losing yardage. I mean, interceptions. I mean, it was 1 interception, but it felt like 5 of them, honestly.
Yeah.
It, like you said last year, I mean, it was, we always discuss, well, most fans could relate to this, would say that the offensive line was not there to protect him at all, which was true. He was the first pick, and typically you're going to the worst team. And that's pretty much how it was set up in order to obtain him. And this year, we got pieces. We fixed the line a little bit, got some more receivers. So there really should be no excuse. Hearing a lot of analysts, covering the story of Bryce Young getting benched and such. I keep also hearing, is it the organization more so than the quarterback? Because, like we mentioned last week, and I think the first episode, we've seen Darnold and Mayfield both go off to different teams, and it seems like their game has advanced ever since they left Charlotte or Carolina. And
yeah.
It makes you wonder if it would be a similar situation if we ended up moving on from Young anytime soon. And because obviously he'll probably be in the NFL more than likely because he was a first pick at that. Typically they last around a bit. So it would be another Carolina Panthers story if we saw him move somewhere and, become better. And that would really tell us that it's organization problem and a Tepper problem at that, because again, there's really no excuse. But I can't remember who it was. I was listening to a few different people covering the team, and many of them were just saying that he doesn't have that killer instinct in him, especially for his size. Yeah. Like if you look at him, you hear a lot of the Kyler Murray comparisons because he's another short quarterback, but he's an all-around athlete. I mean, obviously the man was a baseball player. I think he was supposed to be a first-round pick in baseball, but then he decided to play football. Still a first-round pick, early first-round pick at that for quarterback. So obviously his dynamic as a small player is completely different. Even he's not as short, but Baker Mayfield, he's not considered a tall quarterback. He's only like 6 feet even. He can still make his way around. So he's not showing that killer instinct. And, without that, especially with his size, you're not going to be a successful quarterback. Plus the, low confidence as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, it'd be interesting to see, my gut, this could go multiple ways just with our track record. I mean, Sam Darnold led the Vikings to a win versus the 49ers this week. He played horribly for our team. Baker Mayfield, once again, looked great for the Buccaneers this past week. I wouldn't be surprised. Hopefully we don't move on from Bryce anytime soon. Maybe he could sit on the bench and maybe, mature a little bit, regain some confidence, learn from Andy Dalton kind of. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bryce, when he does go to another team, has success. I mean, just with the only reason I say that is because of Baker. We wrote off Baker Mayfield. We wrote off Sam Darnold, and they're proving to be serviceable quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I mean, anytime you beat the 49ers, I think it's a pretty good, even without Christian McCaffrey, it's still pretty good with that defense they have and Kyle Shanahan and all those great pieces they have. That's how you build an NFL team, actually, right there. The 49ers.
I mean, that's a stacked team overall. So like you said, anybody to beat that team, that's a great win regardless.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just we'll see how it plays out this week. I mean, I would expect, obviously going into the Raiders game, we got Las Vegas this week. I would hope to see the playbook open up a little bit more. The past week with the play calling, it felt like they were just hoping, they were being really conservative, hoping Bryce didn't turn the ball over, and in the NFL, you can't do that and win games. These guys are too talented, best in the world. You're not going to be able to throw 5-10 yard passes every play and expect to win a game. That being said, our running game looked halfway decent, I think, this past week. It wasn't nothing special, but it was definitely a bright point. Offensive line played well, I thought, but it all just boils down to Bryce. We need a leader, and Bryce is not it right now.
Yeah, not at all. And you were mentioning the running or rushing from the team. Chuba Hubbard, he had about 10 carries, 64 yards, no touchdowns, but he led rushing for the team, so didn't look terrible. And defense, Shaq Thompson led the defense, 8 tackles and 6 assists. So, and then you had J.C. Horn with the interception that I was hoping they were going to do something out of, which they didn't. But For the past few years, I mean, our defense has been the better portion of our team. I know some of our past wins over the last few seasons was because of our defense. So it's a shame that it's the same thing but a different year. But hopefully moving forward, there's some sort of change. They're already making an adjustment at the quarterback position, and that was another thing Canales said that moving forward they are going to be making some changes. Not sure what those may look like. He didn't get into specifics, but hopefully whatever it is can better the Carolina Panthers somehow, because right now what they got is not it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, it's just tough being a Panthers fan, man. It's tough. Especially when, hoping for the best every year and you get your hopes up to some extent that
We
maybe
definitely
you
got
could play
spoiled.
well.
We
Yeah.
definitely got spoiled after we got Cam Newton.
Yeah.
'Cause we were actually relevant and we could actually win games. Plus, I mean, that was just a whole different form of a rookie coming in. I mean, his first game, I think they played Arizona, if I'm
Mm.
not
He
mistaken.
broke
Him
the
and
broke the rookie passing yards record.
yeah, I mean, it was a Panthers dream. We definitely got spoiled of that. All those years we had it to the Super Bowl, even though we didn't win it. Having that season, it was nothing like it as a Panther fan. Just Charlotte as a whole was a whole different dynamic of a sports city, particularly because of the Panthers.
Yeah.
So hopefully, at some point, one day, the football gods will allow it again.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So what's your expectations for this week against Las Vegas?
Well, we're talking about a Las Vegas team that's coming off a win against the Ravens. I think they won 26-23, led by Gardner Minshew II. I think his stats were 30 completed passes out of 38 attempted passes, 276 yards, one touchdown. Um, what I mean, this is a whole different dynamic of a situation we're going into this Sunday with Red Rifle starting.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we can at least compete because again, the last time he played, he had his stat sheet was 34 completed passes out of 58 attempts, 300, 361 yards and two touchdowns. If he could play like that and at least keep the game close, we can at least have some quote unquote watchable Panthers football. But I want to see us get a win. I mean, it's not like the Raiders are a great team. They're I would definitely say they're better than us at this point.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah. Just about everybody's better than us at this point.
yeah, honestly, we're definitely the bottom of the barrel of the league. But I would like to see us pull off a win. Hopefully, again, Dalton is not the answer, but with his veteran leadership, hopefully he can at least get us a few this season. But I hope he can have a game like he did the one he played last year against the Seahawks, which was the stats that I just read off. But I just want to see a win. I want to see our offensive line actually play decent because again, our defense has outplayed our offense for a while, and I just want to. I I just don't want a full repeat of last year, but we'll just have to see at this point. What about you?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I want to see our offense score some points. We haven't scored a touchdown probably since some point. I mean, I know we haven't scored a touchdown this year through two games, which is just, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just I don't even know what to say about that. But I would like to see some touchdowns be scored. I think I don't think 1 week is going to be the full picture, but give it a couple weeks and we're going to see if Bryce Young was the problem, depending on how Andy Dalton plays. If Andy Dalton is a serviceable quarterback to any extent, we're going to learn a lot. And I don't think we're going to learn it this week against Las Vegas. Whether he plays great, he could go for 400 yards and whatever. I think it's going to take a couple weeks so we could reevaluate. But I think in a couple weeks we're going to learn if Bryce was a problem or if it's a team thing, which as a Panthers fan would be nice to know, because we're in so much limbo right now with Bryce Young. Does he have anything? Is he just a bad quarterback? Is it the organization? And I think we'll learn a little bit in a couple weeks. But anyway, switching over to the Hornets, we got to talk about the Hornets a little bit on this podcast. I do have something interesting for you, Cam. I have some questions for you, kind of throw you into the fire a little bit with the questions. Give me 3 players from the Hornets this year that have the most to prove.
Well, I'm gonna definitely say LaMelo Ball, just because his health issues over the past few seasons. I mean, he cannot seem to stay healthy. When he's healthy, he's a spectacular young player. But if he can't stay healthy, then it's a huge loss of a dynamic of our team, as he is our team leader. Him, I'll say Mark Williams because of the kind of the same situation, coming off a short season due to injury. You said 3, right?
Yep.
My third, I mean, he proved a little bit last year, but Miles Bridges, I mean, he got his extension and such, but I just want to see that he can, he's with us for a little while longer now. I think it was like a three-year deal or so extension. But I want to see that he can be that second or third player to help lead the team to some wins. I mean, he showed he didn't really miss a beat last year. Those are my main 3 guys. Like I said, that's our main core of the team. But, those are what we have to really rely on. The rest of our team are pretty much role players, I would say, except Brandon Miller. I didn't even put Brandon Miller because
he doesn't really have much to prove.
No, he did not. He is definitely, in my opinion, a new Paul George-esque type player. And that's who he said is his favorite player and who he idolized, but he has nothing to prove. He is a star in the making.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to put him up there.
I think for my top 3, I mean, obviously number 1 for every Hornets fan is going to be LaMelo Ball. He needs to prove he could play a full or look close to a full season, staying healthy. I think the team really has a chance to be significantly better this year if we could just avoid injuries. This past couple of years, we've been just riddled with injuries from, Mark Williams, LaMelo, obviously, and then, some small injuries here or there. But I would definitely say LaMelo. I think he's been our franchise player or so the past couple of years. Obviously, Brandon Miller could, depending on Brandon Miller's year, he could be our franchise player. But LaMelo, a big one for me would be Trey Mann. I think he has a lot to prove this year. I think he's still young and extremely talented coming out of Florida. Good scorer. I think he could be a 25-point guy, maybe, just with how the roster's built. I think he can be a 20, 25-point guy. And then Josh Green, I would probably go over.
That's fair.
Just because he's, younger, I think. Grant Williams is just a role player, you know what I mean? Like he's not going to be anything better than a role player, in my opinion, but he's a good one. He's a great role player, but I think I would probably go Josh Green.
What about Nick Richards? Yeah, it makes you think a little bit there.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully Mark Williams can just take that next step and be our, 30-minute a game center. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, that's a good one too. We have a bunch of really, honestly, you could say that we have a lot to prove about the whole roster, honestly, other than Brandon Miller.
But yeah, I mean, the Hornets definitely are in one of those situations where if you're a fan, it's a brand new organization overall. I mean, we're talking about front office, coach, and even, moves players wise, something different that we didn't quite have majority of last year. So we'll see how they can function as a whole for the whole season. Again, LaMelo is definitely going to be key in regard to his health. And just what we can potentially do this season. I mean, hopefully we can make a playoff appearance, even if we got to go through the play-in first.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, big expectations for the Hornets this year, in my opinion, especially with our other team, the Panthers, just already off to a bad start. It's usually how it goes. The Panthers get off to a rough start, and then you get your hopes up and look forward to the Hornets. So
yeah, that little team. This is that time now when I'm just like that little team down the street from Spectrum Center at Bank of America Stadium.
Yeah. No, for sure. The next few weeks, especially with NBA about to ramp up, we will be covering the Hornets much more to give y'all some more excitement towards the season and everything.
Well, I do have one thing. Did you by any chance see the new City Edition jerseys that were leaked today?
Yeah, I did actually. I did, I was working out after work today, and I saw the leak.
Looks
and
a bit
apparently
familiar,
a lot.
don't you think?
Apparently, yeah, I like them. Apparently, a lot of the NBA jerseys leaked. Did they not? City.
If the rest did, I honestly hadn't seen them yet. I only saw ours as of now, but
And I could be wrong on that, but
this one, I will admit, this one looks very familiar.
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall, this is pretty much the same exact mint jersey that we had. I think that was in the 21-22 season, around when we first drafted LaMelo, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Only difference, I believe that was 21-22, or it might have been 2021. All I know is I remember when Devontae Graham, he was the one that came out
Yeah.
in the jersey release, and I thought those are pretty cool. The only difference is it doesn't just say CLT on the jersey; it has the full Charlotte.
Nice.
I think that was what that jersey was, but I know some people are upset because they were saying they didn't even try this year. But I always like that jersey personally.
Yeah. And what I got to say is the Hornets always have some good jerseys.
I mean, people may say I'm biased, but personally, I really think we've got the best colorway. That purple and teal, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. And then throwing in the Charlotte mint in there, you can't beat it.
Yeah.
It's something about that purple and teal. I can't explain it enough or express it enough, but I've always loved it, and I'm just proud to be a native from that city and a true fan. It's definitely a lot better than orange and blue, if you know where I'm going with that.
Anyway, Cam, you want to get us wrapped up?
Yeah, us Pound, we appreciate you joining us for episode 3. We'll definitely be back around the same time next week covering the Las Vegas game and moving into week 4.
Y'all make sure to follow us on our social medias at BuzzPoundPod on both Instagram and X. And you could also find our podcast on YouTube at BuzzPoundPod.
And until next time, we are the Buzz Pound. Keep pounding and Buzz City.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Buzz Pound. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and let us know what you thought of this episode. Until next time, this is the Buzz Pound.
Touchdown.